Spanish rice is good and all, but when I was talking to Mother, apparently my great-grandmother used to make it with beef. So this is my adaptation of Spanish rice, although by the end of it, it became its own dish. Ingredients are 2 cups of rice, 4 cloves of garlic, 1 pack of ground beef, 2 cups peas and carrots, 2 cups salsa, 4 cups beef broth, and 1 onion. Let the cooking begin. So we'll get our cutting board and our knife ready. What we're going to do is we're going to start with our onion. We're going to cut it in half across the root so that it holds itself together. We put a bunch of slashes in the onion, and it's still being held together by the root, which is good. And then we can cross cut it, and this gets us a nice dice of onion. You probably don't have to cut it as small as I did here, but that's fine. And now we're just going to slice up our garlic, because garlic is awesome, and it will really enhance the flavor of our end product. So we'll get our pan on the stove, we'll set our temperature to max, and then we'll add in our beef. There we go. And we're going to add in our onion now as well. Now we're just going to cook these two together to brown the beef and soften up the onion. Now I use this combination a lot, browning beef with onion at the same time. I actually like making tacos with this because it's really quite a delicious combination. And it just is so much more fulfilling to have onions with your beef. And I've used this in other things as well, like different sauces, other forms of rice, where I cook it in a rice maker just to add this substance to it afterwards, but it doesn't take very long to cook, and it just starts to all brown up. And once it's all browned, then we can move on to the next step. Now I'm going to add the garlic and the peas and carrots. These peas and carrots are frozen, so I'm just going to kind of like reheat them at this step. So I don't really want to have icy cold peas and carrots with my rice at the same time. And I don't like to overcook my garlic, so that's why I'm adding it in later. Not that it would really be a problem putting it in at the start, but as far as the beef and onions go, you can cook those for a significant amount of time before anything really goes bad. And if you cook your onions before you cook your beef, then you can actually make caramelized onions with beef. Now, that is an amazing combination, rather than just softened like I have here, but still pretty good, still pretty delicious. Something else that can be done at this stage would be adding a whole pile of butter, but I resisted the urge to do it. And something else as well, if you're using a really fatty form of ground beef, you can always drain it before you do any of the following steps. So if you don't want to have so much fatty juice in your fancy rice we're making here. Speaking of rice, it's time to add the rice. There we go. And give it a little bit of a mix. If you were to drain this, you could also, while you have all the stuff out of the pan, you could fry up the rice a little bit, get a little bit of color on it before adding everything back in, but I was feeling lazy, so I didn't do that. Give it a little bit of a stir. Perfect. And there's our salsa and our broth. So most of the work is now done, and a lot of what we have left to do is wait. So it's going to give this a little bit of a stir to make sure everything's all incorporated. And as you can see, this is the perfect use of this pan. You couldn't really fit much more in here if you wanted to. You don't want it boiling over or anything, but works good for me. Okay, looks like it's gonna boil pretty soon. Just kind of keep an eye on it at this point in time. And depending on the amount of liquid that you add to it, if you were to make a batch the same size as mine, or if you reduced it, it will really change that amount of time. And as we can see here, it's starting to boil. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn down our temperature to pretty much as low as my stove will go and put our lid on it. And now we just need to wait till it's all soaked into the rice. So half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour and a half. It really depends. The longer you can wait, probably the better. If you want it to go a little bit quicker, turn up your heat a little bit and the amount of time it takes will really decrease. But I left it really at the lowest it can go, so it pretty much took about 2 hours to fully incorporate. So we'll cut out a whole ton of footage and increase the speed by a significant amount. That way we'll get to eating in a relatively decent amount of time. And it's pretty easy to make this stuff, and I really am happy with how it turned out.